that?
Should have already put on swearing.
Oh. So am I yours? Swearing.
That's why I didn't say hi, because I was stressed out.
No, you're good. You're good.
Still stressed out, but you know. Not in the corner, just stressed out in the bubble.
Stressed out in the circle.
Yeah. The socially distant circle.
That's right.
You gotta have like space, you know.
Who wrote that?
Me and Avery.
First day that we were doing our gig, I was watching all the film talks.
It literally just dropped 20 seconds.
Why is my camera guy not freaking out?
Where do I find it?
Deepa, how long are you up here for?
Where's the story, dude?
I'm okay.
Everyone okay? Just a freshman.
Somebody laughed at his joke. I still have your contact name in my phone.
I just see a Newsmax story.
Just send it to me.
So I have my earbuds in.
I
Siri
just sent it
reads
to
your name.
Yep.
Where is it at? I think I saw that in the off the record.
Maybe.
TikToks, but you guys got it.
Yeah.
Reportable, that's good. Did you email it to me or did you text it to me?
I just DM'd you on Twitter.
Oh, on Twitter. Oh, I see it. Thank you.
I'm on bird. And they're wheels up. Okay.
sheltered, right?
No.
I don't even have to ask.
Get them what?
You get set? I know, I didn't even know there was such thing as binary code.
Thank you.
Carla, did you get that? I heard that. No, you're fine, you're fine.
Good afternoon, folks. I was telling these four brilliant scientists as I stood in the back, in a way, this is the most exciting announcement that I've gotten to make in the entire cabinet, raising this to a cabinet level position in one case. These are among the brightest, most dedicated people, not only in the country, but the world. And I want to say good afternoon to all the American people. And two of the most extraordinary, least known departments, especially the last 4 years at the White House, has been the Office of Science and Technology Policy and the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. They're composed of some of the most brilliant scientific minds in the world. When I was Vice President, as Alexander could tell you, I had an intense interest in everything they were doing, and I paid enormous attention. And I was like the kid going back to school. I'd sit down and say, "Can you explain to me?" And they'd be very patient with me. And but as president, I wanted you to know I'm going to pay a great deal of attention to these issues again. When I traveled the world as vice president, I was often asked to explain world leaders. They asked me things like, define America. Tell me, how can you define America? What's America? And I was on the Tibetan plateau with, at the time, with Xi Jinping. And he asked me in a small meeting he and I, we each had an interpreter, can I define America for him? I said, yes, I can. In one word, possibilities. Possibilities. I think it's one of the reasons why we've occasionally been referred to as the ugly Americans. We think anything's possible. Given a chance, we can do anything. And that's part of, I think, the American spirit and what the people on this stage and the departments they will lead represent. Enormous possibilities. They're the ones asking the most American of questions. What next? What next? Never satisfied over what next? And what next is big and breathtaking. How can we make the impossible possible? And they weren't just asking questions for the sake of questions. They're asking these questions as call to action, to inspire, to help us imagine the future and figure out how to make it real and improve the lives of the American people and people around the world. This is a team that asks us to imagine every home in America being powered by renewable energy within the next 10 years, or 3D image printers restoring tissue after traumatic injuries, and hospitals printing organs for organ transplants. Imagine. And they really, then rally the scientific community to go about doing what we're imagining. Using science, data, and discovery was a governing philosophy in the Obama-Biden administration. And everything from the economy to the environment, to criminal justice reform, and to national security, and on health care. For example, a belief in science led our efforts to map the human brain and to develop more precise individualized medicines. It led to our ongoing mission to end cancer as we know it, something that is deeply personal to both my family and Kamala's family, and countless families in America. When President Obama asked me to lead the cancer moonshot, I knew we had to inject a sense of urgency into the fight. We believed we could double the rate of progress and do in 5 years what otherwise would take 10. My wife Jill and I traveled around the country and the world meeting with thousands of cancer patients and their families, physicians, researchers, philanthropists, technology leaders, and heads of state. We sought to better understand and break down the silos and stovepipes that prevent the sharing of information and impede advances in cancer research and treatment while building a focused and coordinated effort here at home and abroad. We made progress, but there's so much more that we can do. When I announced that I would not run in 2015, at the time I said I only one regret. And Rose Garden asked me if I had any regrets. I said I'd one, that I wouldn't get to be the president to preside over cancer as we know it. Well, as God willing, on the 20th of this month, in a couple of days, as president, I'm going to do everything I can to get that done. I'm going to keep it going to be a priority for me and for Kamala, and it's a signature issue for Jill as First Lady. We know the science is discovery. It's not fiction. It's also about hope, and that's America. It's in the DNA of this country, hope. We're on the cusp of some of the most remarkable breakthroughs that will fundamentally change the way of life for all life on this planet. We can make more progress in the next 10 years, I predict, than we've made in the last 50 years. It's sort of an exponential movement. We can also face some of the most dire crises in a generation where science is critical to whether or not we meet the moment of peril and promise that we know is within our reach. In 1944, Franklin Roosevelt asked his science advisor, how could the United States further advance scientific research in the critical years following the Second World War? The response led to some of the most groundbreaking discoveries in the last 75 years. We can do that again, and we can do more. So today I'm proud to announce a team of some of the country's most brilliant and accomplished scientists to lead the way. And I'm asking them to focus on 5 key areas. First, the pandemic and what we can learn about what is possible or what should be possible to address the widest range of public health needs. Second, the economy. How can we build back better to ensure prosperity is fully shared all across America, among all Americans? And thirdly, how science helps us confront this climate crisis we face in America and the world. But in America, how it helps us confront the climate crisis with American jobs and ingenuity. And fourth, how can we ensure the United States leads the world in technologies and the industries that the future that will be critical for our economic prosperity and national security, especially with the intense increased competition around the world from China on. And fifth, how can we ensure the long-term health and trust in science and technology in our nation? You know, these are each questions that call for action. And I'm honored to announce a team that is answering the call to serve. As the Presidential Science Advisor and Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, I nominated one of the most brilliant guys I know, persons I know, Dr. Eric Lander. And thank you, Doc, for coming back. The pioneer, he's a pioneer in the scientific community, principal leader in the Human Genome Project. It's not hyperbole to suggest that Dr. Lander's work has changed the course of human history. His role in helping us map the genome pulled back the curtain on human disease, allowing scientists ever since and for generations to come to explore the molecular basis for some of the most devastating illnesses affecting our world. And the application of his pioneering work are poised to lead to incredible cures and breakthroughs in the years to come. Dr. Lander now serves as the president and the founding director of the Broad Institute at MIT and Harvard, the world's foremost non-profit genetic research organization. And I came to appreciate Dr. Lander's extraordinary mind when he served as the co-chair of the President's Council on Advisors in Science and Technology during the Obama-Biden administration. And I'm grateful that we can work together again. I've always said that the Biden-Harris administration will also going to lead, and we're going to lead with science and truth. We believe in both.
That's right.
This is how we're going to, God willing, overcome the pandemic and build our country back better than it was before. And that's why, for the first time in history, I'm going to be elevating the Presidential Science Advisor to a cabinet rank, because we think it's that important. As Deputy Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy and Science and Society, I appoint Dr. Nelson. She's a professor at the Institute of Advanced Studies at Princeton University, president of the Social Science Research Council, and one of America's leading scholars, an award-winning author and researcher, exploring the connections between science and our society. The daughter of a military family, and her dad served in the United States Navy, and her mom was an Army cryptographer. Dr. Nelson developed a love for technology at a very young age, tinkering with the early computer products, computing products, and code-breaking equipment that every kid has around their house that she grew up with in her home. When I wrote that down, I thought to myself, I mean, how many kids, anyway. And that passion, it was a passion, forged a lifelong curiosity about the inequities and the power dynamics that sit beneath the surface of scientific research and the technology we build. Dr. Nelson has focused on those insights into science, technology, and society like few before ever have in American history, breaking new ground in our understanding of the role of science plays in American life, and opening the door to a future which science better serves all peoples. As co-chair of the President's Council on Advisors in Science and Technology, I appoint Dr. Frances Arnold, Director of the Rosen Bioengineering Center at Caltech, one of the world's leading experts in protein engineering, a lifelong champion of renewable energy solutions who has been inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. That ain't a bad place to be. Not only is she the first woman to be elected to all 3 National Academies of Science, Medicine, and Engineering, she's also the first woman, American woman, to win a Nobel Prize in Chemistry. a very slow learner, slow starter. She gets on. The daughter of Pittsburgh. She worked as a cab driver, a jazz club server, before making her way to Princeton and Berkeley in a career on the leading edge of human discovery. And I want to make that point again. I want, if any of your children are watching, let them know you can do anything. In this country, you can do anything, anything at all. And so she survived breast cancer, overcame the tragic losses in her family while rising to the top of her field, still overwhelmingly dominated by men. Her passion has been a steadfast commitment to renewable energy for the betterment of our planet and humankind. She is an inspiring figure to scientists across the field and across nations. And I want to thank Dr. Arnold for agreeing to co-chair the first all-woman team to lead the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, which leads me to the next member of the team. As co-chair, the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, I appoint Dr. Maria Zuber, now a trailblazing geophysicist and planetary scientist, a former chair of the National Science Board, first woman to lead the science department at MIT, and the first woman to lead NASA's robotic planetary mission. Growing up in coal country, not far from heaven, Scranton, Pennsylvania, in Carbon County, in Pennsylvania, about 50 miles south where I was a kid, she dreamed of exploring outer space. I could have told her she'd just go to Greenreach in Scranton and she'd find where it was, but I shouldn't be so flippant. But I'm so excited about these folks. You know, reading every book she could find and listening to her mom's stories about watching the earliest rocket launch on television, Maria became the first person in her family to go to college and never let go of her dream. Today, she oversees the Lincoln Laboratory at MIT and leads the institution's climate action plan. She's played a leadership role in 10 NASA missions. Her groundbreaking work on planetary mapping has generated some of the most accurate topographical maps humanity has ever produced of the moon and of Mars. Not only is she an explorer of outer space, she's one of the most accomplished explorers in generations. And I'm truly honored that she's agreed to answer this call to service to help us chart new courses of discovery. And finally, he could not be here today, but I'm pleased to announce that I've had a long conversation with Dr. Collins, Francis Collins, could not be here today. And I've asked him to stay on as director of the Institute of Health and at this critical moment. I've known Dr. Collins for many years. I work with him closely. He's brilliant, a pioneer, a true leader. And above all, he's a model of public servant, and I'm honored to be working with him again. And in his absence, I want to thank him again for being willing to stay on. I know that wasn't his original plan, but we worked an awful lot on the moonshot and dealing with cancer, and I just want to thank him again. And to each of you and your families, and I say your families, thank you for the willingness to serve. And not that you haven't been serving already, but to serve in the administration. And the American people, to all the American people, this is a team that's going to help restore your faith in America's place in the frontier of science and discovery and hope. Now, I'm now going to turn this over, starting with Dr. Lander, to hear from each of our nominees, and then with hear from the Vice President. But again, I just can't thank you all enough. I really mean it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being willing to do this. Doc, it's all yours. I better put my mask on. I'm going to get in trouble.
Well, I want to start by thanking you, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, for your trust and the opportunity to help elevate science in the White House as we all build back better. I'm also excited to thank this amazing team that we're announcing today. They are an extraordinary group of scientific leaders, and I'm looking forward to working alongside each of you and learning from you. So over the course of my life, I have seen America take on amazing challenges to try to make the world better. And I came to believe that America and Americans could rise to meet any challenge. I think that's a belief I share with President-elect Biden. And as a kid growing up in Brooklyn, I saw America go to the moon. And I mean every step of the way, because my mother let me stay home from school to watch every single space launch. As a young scientist, I got to play a role in another remarkable mission, the Human Genome Project. When we set out, the idea of mapping the complete DNA code of the human being just seemed completely absurd. With the rate of progress at the time, it would have taken about 200 years to map one person's genome. But I was part of a generation of young scientists across America and around the world who believed in the ability, as the President-elect said, in the possibility to change what could be done. It didn't end up taking 200 years, it took 13. And today, it takes just hours. And the Human Genome Project has had a huge impact. It's made it possible to discover the biological basis of diseases, from cancer to diabetes to Alzheimer's, and to use that knowledge to revolutionize diagnostics and pioneer new therapies. Well, today, the opportunities we have and the challenges we face are greater than ever before. The President-elect knows that science and technology will be crucial in meeting this moment. And he has tasked us in this letter, and I don't mean just his scientific advisors, I mean the whole scientific community and the American public, with answering important questions about how science and technology can best be used to advance our health, our economic welfare, and our national security. He's asked us to rise to this moment, to draw lessons from the pandemic, to seek bold new climate solutions, to propel technologies that will create new industries and new jobs, to ensure that the benefits of progress are shared broadly among all Americans, and to nurture, replenish, and strengthen the scientific community. No nation is better equipped than America to lead the search for solutions, to inspire the next generation, to attract the best scientific talent from within our shores and from around the world. America's greatest asset, I think, is our unrivaled diversity. After all, scientific progress is about someone seeing something that no one's ever seen before, because they bring a different lens, different experiences, different questions, different passions. No one can top America in that regard, but we have to ensure that everyone not only has a seat at the table, but a place at the lab bench. I am so grateful to this team, to the President-elect and the Vice President-elect, and I am so excited about working together to extend the endless frontiers of science. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, for your trust, for your faith, and for this extraordinary honor. I am beyond humbled. I come from a family that long dedicated itself to public service. My parents are veterans. My mother, Dolores, served in the U.S. Army and later in federal government. My father, Robert, spent his 30-year career in the U.S. Navy. Thanks to them, I grew up instilled with an abiding belief in the importance of serving one's country. I thank my family for this model of service and also for their love and support. Now, I am deeply grateful that I will have the opportunity to lend my own experience and expertise in public service. For an academic whose work stands at the intersection of technology, science, and our social fabric, there is no mistaking the power and meaning of the moment we are living through today. Of course, science and technology have permeated nearly every aspect of our lives throughout the course of human history. But perhaps never before in living memory have the connections between our scientific world and our social world been quite so stark as they are today. The COVID-19 crisis has inflicted extraordinary suffering, but it has also held up a mirror to our society, reflecting in its deadly wake resource gaps and medical disparities, the inequality we've allowed to calcify. And as new technologies take root in our lives, from artificial intelligence to human genome editing, they reveal and reflect even more about the complex and sometimes dangerous social architecture that lies beneath the scientific progress we pursue. Science at its core is a social phenomenon. It is a reflection of people, of our relationships, and of our institutions. When we provide inputs to the algorithm, when we program the device, when we design, test, and research, we are making human choices. Choices that bring our social world to bear in a new and powerful way. It matters who makes these choices. It matters who they're thinking about when they do. That's why, in my career, I've always sought to understand the perspective of people and communities who are not usually in the room when the inputs are made, but who live with the outputs nonetheless. As a Black woman researcher, I am keenly aware of those who are missing from these rooms. I believe we have a responsibility to work together to make sure that our science and technology reflects us, and when it does, that it reflects all of us, that it reflects who we truly are together. This too is a breakthrough. This too is an innovation that advances our lives. We have an incredible window of opportunity ahead of us to approach our science and technology policy in ways that are honest and inclusive, to bring the full strength of our communities, our experiences, our concerns, and our aspirations to every table we think as we think through emergent forms of science and technology. There has never been a more important moment for scientific development, to get scientific development right, or to situate that development in our values of equality, accountability, justice, and trustworthiness. It is my honor to pursue that effort with this distinguished team and with a president-elect and vice president-elect who stand up proudly and consistently for scientific integrity and the dignity and worth of every community. Thank you.
Mr. President-elect, Madam Vice President-elect, I am humbled and honored by this chance to serve the American people at this moment of profound grief, but unprecedented opportunity. As an engineer by training, there's a certain temptation to see the work ahead of us as a series of difficult problems to be solved. But the truth is, that's not what drew me to this role. Like the rest of this extraordinary team, I'm here today because of love. A love of science, yes, but also a deeper love of our planet and of our people, without whom science has no purpose or meaning. I embarked on my own version of this love in the 1970s, beginning a career in solar energy at a time when our nation was in the grip of an energy crisis. In the years since, my belief has grown that our highest responsibility in each generation is to preserve our fragile planet, prepare our economy and our workforce for the future, and pass on a better world. Science-based decision-making has always been our most powerful tool for meeting that responsibility, perhaps never more than today. As a pandemic rages, taking so much and threatening all that we love, we look to science and technology for answers. Technology to stay connected to one another, science to find vaccines and light our path out of darkness. As climate change looms, we look to science and technology once more to save this precious jewel of our planet so that we might pass it on to future generations intact and in good health, as it was passed to us. In a time of economic crisis, we look to science to develop the industries of the future, the ones that will breathe new life into our livelihoods and provide the good jobs that lift up families and our communities and bring dignity and security to all of our people. And in a moment of torrential divisions, science offers us a common shelter of facts and truth, within which we can begin to come together and in time to heal. Science, once again, is not about cold solving of problems. It's a warm and beautiful exploration of the unknown, an expression of human curiosity that propels us forward and allows us to fulfill our most important responsibilities. The moment we fail to nurture it, we resign ourselves to living in the past and lose the chance to guide the future. The agenda put forward by the President-elect and the Vice President-elect resonates with me, not only as a scientist, but as a grandmother. When we put science back to work for the benefit of all people, revitalizing our economy, fueling our climate response, broadening our perspective as we rebuild around greater equity and opportunity, we are making a society that is worth passing on to our children and our grandchildren. It is an act of love, and I am honored by the opportunity to help nurture this effort. Thank you.
Mr. President-elect, Madam Vice President-elect, thank you for this incredible opportunity. Like President-elect Biden, I was born in eastern Pennsylvania, where I spent clear nights observing the sky. I decided to become a scientist because I just couldn't deal with not knowing what was up there. That impatience, coupled with our country's unparalleled system of higher education, allowed me to pursue robotic space exploration and live a life of discovery. Imagine mapping the solar system for a living. That's me. Somewhere along the way, I began to appreciate another dimension of science, to see it as a way to help people and advance our country. That element of service called to me just as powerfully as the night sky had in my youth. I have been fortunate to serve our country across each of the previous 3 administrations. I am proud today to be joining a 4th and look forward to continuing to advocate for science in a nonpartisan manner in this new role. I am thrilled with the challenge and the opportunity to work together with the scientific leadership of this administration to restore trust in science and pursue breakthroughs that benefit all people. That work is especially critical today as the pandemic continues to rage. Throughout this difficult chapter, my colleagues in the life sciences have proven, through extraordinary sacrifice and resolve, that science and scientists are part of the solution. And when the country needs us, we will be there. We will be there beyond the pandemic, too, helping take on the full sweep of challenges ahead, including our transition to a zero-carbon energy system, our need to create good-paying jobs of the future, and other aspects of our existential fight against climate change. My home in Pennsylvania was an anthracite country. Both my grandfathers mined coal and died of black lung. Most of the jobs left that region half a century ago. And in communities like mine, they've never come back. I could not be more excited for the efforts of this administration to deploy science to help breathe new life into these places, into so many communities, large and small, that are hurting today. Bold scientific leadership will be a critical component of building back better, guarding our health and safety, helping spark new clean industries, and keeping America competitive in the race for those well-paying jobs of the future. I am honored to be a part of this effort, and I can't wait to get to work. Thank you.
Mr. President-elect, thank you for this. This is, the President-elect and I can nerd out a little sometimes, but this is so fantastic. Thank you. And I'll tell you, I feel a certain kinship with the nominees we are bringing together today, because my mother was a scientist, an endocrinologist, and she was so passionate about science. She basically had two goals in her life: to raise her two daughters and to end breast cancer. In fact, when I was young, I'd go with her to the lab where she would give me jobs to do. These folks will appreciate my least favorite was cleaning pipettes. Exactly. But when you're the daughter of a scientist, science has a way of shaping how you think and see the world. My mother used to talk about the scientific method as if it were a way of life. And she instilled in me a fundamental belief in the importance of collecting and analyzing data, facts, of forming a hypothesis and recognizing that it's not a failure to reevaluate that hypothesis when the facts don't add up, of making decisions not based on intuition or ideology, but based on evidence. And today, the importance of that lesson, of following the science, of listening to the scientists, is clear everywhere we look. From a pandemic that has taken such a devastating toll, partly because our nation's leaders did not listen to the scientists from the start, to raging wildfires, record-breaking storms, and a climate crisis that scientists agree is caused by human beings. The science behind climate change is not a hoax. The science behind the virus is not partisan. The same laws apply. The same evidence holds true, regardless of whether or not you accept them. And President-elect Biden and I will not only listen to science, we will invest in it so we can achieve breakthroughs from strengthening public health to tackling climate change to jump-starting job creation and economic growth. And as we do, we will also make sure we are investing in STEM education and the next generation of scientists, including women scientists and scientists of color. The team we are naming today will help us lead this work. These world-renowned scientists and distinguished experts are joining our administration because they believe in public service, in the nobility of public service. And they want to put their extraordinary talents to work on behalf of the people of the United States. By nominating them to these important posts, the President-elect is sending a very clear message. We are going to make sure the United States of America once again leads the way in science and innovation, harnessing the world's collective knowledge to unlock new cures, new breakthroughs, and as the President-elect always talks about, new possibilities for everyone. So let me close by saying this. A few weeks ago, I got the first dose of my coronavirus vaccine. It was the Moderna vaccine, and it was developed with NIH, the National Institutes of Health, by a team that was co-led by a 34-year-old black woman by the name of Dr. Corbett. So I have a message for all the little girls and boys out there who dream of growing up to be a superhero. Superheroes aren't just about our imagination. They are walking among us. They are teachers and doctors and scientists. They're vaccine researchers like Dr. Corbett. And you can grow up to be like them too. So let's dream big, lead with conviction, and see ourselves, each one of us, as the superheroes of tomorrow. Because the beauty of science is that it is about the pursuit, as has been talked about what we can do to improve the human condition, to lift people up, to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. So to the young people, our young leaders, see yourselves that way and pursue your dreams, not only for your sake, but for ours, because our country needs you. And again, Mr. President-elect, thank you so very much. Thank you.
I got to say one thing. I'm not supposed to speak again. Come here, don't go away.
Okay, I'll sit right here.
You can tell this is real. We are both really excited about this. Really excited. Because I think there's so much we can do. And I think you got it right, Doc. We have the most diverse population in the world that's in a democracy that functions. And there's so much we can do. I can't tell you how excited we've been about doing this. We saved it for last. I know it's not, we're not naming the Department of Defense and the Attorney General, but I tell you what, you have more impact on what our children are going to face and our grandchildren, what they're going to have opportunities to do than anybody. And she's pretty good too, isn't she? Pretty good. I may not be much, but I know how to pick them. So anyway, this is really, we're going to be doing a lot of work, and we can hardly wait to have you. I'm taking this beyond what we're supposed to do. See you all.
Okay.
Come on.
Is there any scenario we would not be taking the oath outside on Wednesday? Travis, pull us up, please.
Are you working? You can go up and leave go past the stimulus plan.